So I am actually going to be getting started with my Christmas in July series, and we are going to make some really cute ornaments out of these little 3x2 wood pieces and some wire. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sand all these down around their edges. We'll get that going. So here I'm just taking a few of my wood tiles at a time, and I'm making them even and then sanding that particular side so that I am not taking forever sanding each individual piece, since there's like, I believe, 15 of these tiles that I'm working on. So it makes it easier for me to do it this way. Saves a lot of time. Now here I'm taking a very small drill bit, matching it to the size of the wire I'm going to be using to hang these tiles. I'm going to use my drill, clamp down my wood pieces, and drill into each corner of the top of my wood tiles. Okay, always put your tools away once you're finished with them. So now I'm going to take this 220 sandpaper here, and I'm just going to go over where those holes were drilled. I'm wanting to make sure that there are no little splinters coming up where the drill bit went through that. Taking now a cloth, I am wiping up any sawdust on my work area as well as on each of my wood pieces. That way when I paint, I know I have a smooth, clean surface. Okay, so since I want to make this simple and also using the stuff that I have on hand so that, things aren't just stashing away into my little hoarding world in my craft room, I went ahead and dug out some of my Christmas stickers that I've gotten over the years on the clearance. So, these were at like Dollar General for 75% off, so a lot of them were a quarter. So let's go ahead and look through some of these, and we've got some really cute ones that we could possibly cut down. So let's go ahead and just get our boards painted in a white so that we can get these on there. So I went ahead and went with the Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster because I knew it would be a neutral color and go with any of the tiles that I decided to decorate. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that all my holes are not covered or they don't have any of the paint in them. I'm just going to go through and using my little spellbinder tool here, I'm just going to press that paint right out of the way. This little tool from Spellbinders is a die release tool, and I tell you, I have used it for so many different things. It's a wonderful addition to any craft room. Now I like a little more farmhouse rustic style. That's just what I like. So we have Noel. Might be really cute. Maybe just not put the little black parts around it. Peace and Joy. Christmas tree. That's too big for that. I could do some snowflakes. Let's start with I might do a couple of those, like Peace and Joy, Naughty or Nice, and I might do a couple of those. So let's go ahead and pop those out of here. Let's see. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim them to where I want them to be first. Now this is funny because I am such a slow, meticulous crafter. I just wanted you to know that this is me speeding up the recording, and I just think it's really hilarious that I am so slow. So I go ahead and I'm going to end up speeding this up to like 5 times my crafting speed. Tell me below in the comments if you guys are as slow as I am when you're putting projects together. I am just so grateful that I am able to speed this up for you so that this isn't taking forever to show you the process of putting these Christmas tiles together. And at this pace, I can't even tell you how fast I've sped this video up, but I want to make sure that the words are right where they need to be and that it's going to fit on there properly. And do I need to cut it here? Do I need to cut it there? It's just a designing process, and everybody has their own way of doing it. So there is no right or wrong way. And I just take my time because I just enjoy this process so much. So, let me know how you guys move forward with your design process. Maybe I'm just a pokey crafter. So here I'm just continuing the same process, just putting them on there, braying them down with my brayer, looking to see what I want on the next tile and doing the process all over again. So I am showing you just the process of going through my stickers and seeing which ones I like best on these wood tiles. I'm looking at their size, the shape, how they coordinate with each other. You'll see me putting some on, taking them off, moving them to different tiles. It's just a process that I go through, and you probably do as well. You don't have to have a plan in place when you're doing this. Look at what you have, put things together, see if they look great, and if they don't, take it off, put something else on there. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. It's handmade crafts, so there's always going to be details in there that aren't quite perfect, but this is a farmhouse style and it doesn't have to be, and this is what I love about it. So on this one, I actually wanted to put some other trees on here with this tree. I didn't want it to be the only one there. The trees that were on there, though, had some little presents. So I actually took the trees off of both of the sticker packs and I cut the little presents off of the bottom so that I can use this on this wood plaque the way that I thought it would look best. So I put those smaller trees in the back and I put the larger one in the front so it looks like it has some dimension. So here's all the ones that I have done already. Now I'm just looking at the rest of my sticker packs, and I wanted to have like little sets that kind of go with each other. And so I have 3 of those metallic trees and presents, and I wanted to have one more that kind of fit there together. Now I'm looking at these and I'm trying to see if I can get some other little presents there with it. In order to do that, I had to actually cut them off of an elf and a Santa, and so I'm trying to trim those little things off of there, and I'm just not liking the way it looks. And as you see, I'm just continuing playing with this, moving things around, taking things off of one, putting it on another, and that's what this is all about. Play with it, see what you like, and don't give up on yourself. Just continue to move through the process. So I like the way that set turned out, so now I'm just moving so I can find something that would kind of go with that Noel. And the best thing I found were these puffy snowflake stickers, so I really think that those matched real well together. So here we go, let's move on to the next set that we're going to create. So now I'm just looking to see kind of what sets I have together and what I need to move on to next. Now these sets of trees I actually had when we moved cross country. So these stickers are a good 20 years old, and so I figured, you know what, it is time to use these. Now I am just playing. Do I like the pine cones? No, I don't. Do I like these trees this way? And you'll see me, it's like I'm putting them on, I'm taking them off, and I decided I really liked that layered look where you can see the dimension with the smaller trees in the back and the larger trees in the front. I really liked the way that had turned out. And so I'm taking some of these stickers and I'm pulling off the same types of trees, and I'm layering them and trimming off what is hanging off the edge of my tiles. And I really liked the effect that this had given, and these are actually the favorites in the family. So now I'm using my chalk paint Waverly in the color Lacquer, and I'm using a makeup sponge from Dollar Tree to just blot around the edges of these wooden tiles. I'm doing this on the tiles that actually have the red in them a little more prominently, and I'm going to just add a little bit here and there on the top of the tiles so that once it dries I can sand off a little bit and distress it. I'm using my heat tool to get a little bit of time passing through so it doesn't take as long. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover the back of these tiles with the same chalk paint, and because it has a white base, it doesn't have a real thick dark color. Chalk paint does not take long to dry at all, so I'm just putting one coat on, and then by the time I have the coat done on the others, I can go on back and put a second coat on. Once again, using the heat tool to dry so it doesn't take quite as long. Now I'm going to go in with some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to go around the edges where I've added a little bit more of that red to give it that farmhouse look. Now I really want those stickers to be able to stay and not lift up over time, so I'm going to use my matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to go over the tops of these plaques with the Mod Podge, starting with a thin layer, so that I can just cover these up and give this a nice seal over the tops of these plaques. So I don't have to worry about over time these stickers coming up and loosening and coming off. I'm going to use my heat tool once again to dry, and then go over one more time with that Mod Podge. This is such a great product, and I use it on several things in my craft room. So I've moved those aside, and I'm bringing in the wood tiles that have the green trees and presents on them, and I'm using the Waverly chalk paint in the color Fern, and I'm going around the edges just like I did on the red ones, and I'm adding a little bit of blotchiness so that it's going over onto the plaque themselves, and that way I can get that farmhouse look again. I'm going in with my heat tool and I'm drying the edges the best I can so I can flip it over and use that same color on the back of these plaques. Once this is done, I'm going to go back in with my heat tool and get it nice and dry so that I can turn it over and use my sandpaper to roughen up those edges just a little bit. I know with these I got a little impatient and I had to go back and use my heat gun again to make sure they were dry, but I did get the edges buffed out a little bit with that sandpaper and made sure that they were nice and dry before I started with that Mod Podge. Once again, I went over with a thin coat of Mod Podge on the top of these plaques, making sure that the stickers were covered, using my heat gun to dry that Mod Podge, and since I've used a thin coat, it does dry fairly quick. I'm going in with my second coat here and letting it dry. Now I have a stack where I'm putting them aside to dry so I can move on to my next ones. Now these I've used the Waverly chalk paint in moss, and what I did is I have the moss and I used it around the edges, but I also put the fern, what was left on that makeup sponge, around the edge of that, so it kind of gave us a good two-tone color, which actually gave it some texture. So the Noel and the Snowflake were all in a league all their own, so I went ahead and just pulled in some acrylic black paint and went around the edges of that and around the back of that, so that they are definitely standing out on their own. Once I did those, I went ahead and moved them aside and brought in the moss again, covering the back of the trees in the moss. Once that was done, I used the fern and I just blotted off a little bit and added that as texture to the back of those trees that were covered in the moss. I went ahead and sanded the snowflakes and the Noel a little bit, and then added a thicker coat of Mod Podge over those. Now I did a thicker coat because those were puffy stickers, and so I wanted the Mod Podge to be able to dry over that with a coat that is not going to lift up easy. The others are a thin sticker and they lay flat, so it was a lot easier to know that they were covered right. So here I am actually measuring out some wire that I'm going to use to be the hanger on these ornaments. I measured out about 5.5 inches and then used that first one to measure out the rest. I stuck it through the back of the holes on those plaques and then used my needle nose pliers to twist them and create a nice curl on the front of that plaque so that you can see it definitely has that farmhouse look. It's not a clean flat look, but it has a nice curled wire at the front of that, and it's not going to pull through. So you can actually put this up on your tree and you don't have to worry about it coming through. Now I used the same colored wire on each of these particular ornaments with the trees that were on them. I really wanted to have a more natural look for these particular wood tiles, and I really liked the way they turned out. I did find some 20 gauge copper wire with the silver lining on the outside, and I used that for the rest of these ornaments. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out the 5.5 inches, and I'm going to cut enough of those pieces of wire so that I can thread them through each of these wooden plaque ornaments. Now the 20 gauge wire is really a good thickness to use for this particular type of project. I like it because I can bend it easy enough, I can cut it easy enough, but it's still thick enough and strong enough that it makes a great wire hanger for these ornaments. So I've got most of these done. I'm going to go ahead and show you on these how I did the twist to create a hanger after I put the wires in. So I'm taking my needle nose pliers and I'm putting it at the wider end down here, and I'm going to pull up on it, and then I'm just going to twist that around, and that's going to come right out and give us like a hanger looking item. I'm going to do it again right here in slow motion for you. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers. I'm going to have it open just slightly and put the wire between my needle nose pieces here. I'm going to hold that tight. I'm going to twist my hand around with the pliers in place, and it's going to create a little loop within that wire on the top of that hanger. I'm taking the pliers, I stick it in the hole with the needle nose closed, and move it around just a little bit to create that little loop on top. Now I went ahead, and on these I have the hanger on there, and I made some little cotton bows to put on there, because it gives it a little more of that farmhouse flair that I like. So let me show you how to do that. I have two done here for two of those, but I'm going to show you my cotton twine. I'm going to take just two of my fingers because these are small bows. Remember, these are 3x2 pieces of wood. So these are pretty small. I mean, when you think about it in the palm of your hand. So I'm going to take the cotton twine and I'm going to wrap it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to just take it and I'm going to cut it off at that end. So I wrapped it 6 times around my 2 fingers. And I'm going to make sure that those are even. Lay it down like that, and then I'm going to cut a strip long enough to tie around it. It's probably about 7-8 inches. You don't need it that long. I'm going to lay that, and right in the center I'm going to bring that up, and I'm just going to tie a knot around the center of that twine that I wrapped around my fingers. Just a nice tight knot, and that's it. Once you have that done, right where you had wrapped and created that little wrap around there like a hanger, you're just going to take this and you're going to tie it around that. So I'm just going to tie another knot in the back of that. We get fiddly fingers when we're filming. I don't know why we do that. A lot of people do. And that's it. I'm going to trim the long pieces off. I have these other two done. Remember, I just wrapped it 6 times around and then cut another piece of twine and put it right in the center. This one's not very centered though, so let's see if we can get that to scoot over just a little bit. Yep, pretty easy. So it's going to go right across there, and I'm just going to tie a knot right in the back. There we have it. So now what I want to do is I want to trim these, but I also want the bow to kind of stay at the front. So I'm going to actually put a little dab of glue on the back of each of these. So this is super easy. I'm just flipping over the tiles and pulling on those cotton twine threads that I've actually tied them on with, making sure that they're all pretty much even with the twine bow. I don't want a lot of those twine pieces hanging over to get caught on anything. I want them to be just as even as I can for farmhouse look. They all have a little bit of country flair to them and a little bit of the southern shell. So I'm just going to put a little dab of glue on the back of each of these, and that's going to help hold this right in place. Now for projects like this, I do use the Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks. There we have it, my friends. We are done. And we have some very cute farmhouse plaque Christmas ornaments. I really like the way these turned out. I hope you did too. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried anything like this before. If you have, what theme did you go with? Are you a farmhouse kind of person, or are you more of your traditional? Let me know in the comments below also which one of these was your favorite. My husband and daughter really love these trees. Of course, my husband is an avid fisherman, so you know, being out on the lake and in the open with the trees and wildlife is right up his alley. So he really did like those. And then my daughter Megan is her minor in college is sustainability, and of course the trees and just the beauty of nature is right up her alley. So those were their favorites right away. I do like the way those turned out. I really did play around with those stickers quite a bit, and I really like the way they turned out with the layering effect. So let me know what yours, what your favorite was. Thank you for joining me, and keep your eyes open for the next Christmas in July video. Thanks. Have a great day. God bless and stay safe.